How about if I just start at the beginning? you could be honest.
You know what? They have the sweat equity that went into that memory that they're making with their friends and family. And that's what's important with us. And that's what the I Am Real world's about.
Well, that's a great question. You know, one of the best things about a spring food plot is you get a second chance if it fails.
Chasing Giants with Don Higgins. Brought to you by buyafarm.com, your source for farm, recreational properties, rural homes, and more. By tapping into Don's years of experience, dedication, and commitment, Chasing Giants focuses on the techniques, strategies, and dedication needed to harvest one of God's most amazing creations, world-class whitetails. Now, here is Don and co-host Terry Peer.
Well, welcome everyone to Chasing Giants with Don Higgins, brought to you by buyafarm.com. I'm Terry Peer. This is episode 40 on November 29th. Don, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Good. How are you, Terry?
Good. We got a really cool episode tonight. We're going to go over a lot of things and still try to stay around our hour time limit. But it was a big week this Thanksgiving week, wasn't it, with the release of Mel?
Yeah, you know, I'd been looking forward to that video since October 30th, the day I shot Mel. Steve Shields, you know, can work magic with video, and I was just so anxious to see it, as well as a lot of other people were as well. And I wasn't a bit disappointed, and I don't think anyone else was either.
Well, I think it was an awesome production, and we're going to get Steve on the line with us here in just a little bit, but I want to tease and tell everybody that they need to hang around for the end of the podcast, because you are going to choose the first winner for the Master Class free pass. So I think you're giving away one free pass to each Master Class. Is that right?
That's right. The first one will be for the March 13th.
Okay.
Event.
So stay tuned to the end of the podcast. We'll release that, and then we're also going to talk about finishing up the rut report and tips and ideas for moving forward for those of you who haven't filled a tag. So a lot to go over tonight. I want to jump right into to the Mel video that released on Thanksgiving, and let's see. Do we have Steve on the line right now? Steve, are you there?
I'm here, Terry.
All right,
hey, Don.
So everybody, this is Steve Shields. Everybody got a small glimpse of Steve. I forget what episode it was, but it was the live event that we held where we had a live audience, and Steve spliced in a picture of him sitting on top of a pole about 9 foot up, getting some video footage of Don checking a trail camera. So glad to have Steve on tonight. It's really important for us to have him here tonight to talk about this video. Just fantastic job, Steve.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks for having me on. It was a pretty special project for sure, and it was just a glimpse into Don's life, which is pretty interesting for sure.
So Don, I'm going to let you kind of kick it off, and I got a couple takeaways and things that I saw in the last production edit that Steve released out on YouTube. What are your overall takeaways from the video and then from the response of everything?
Well, I couldn't be more happy with the video. I mean, it was absolutely fantastic. It's a style that you don't usually see with hunting videos, but it was extremely well received. I bet you I read over 100 comments. Some of them were sent to me privately, and some of them were left on YouTube, but I know I read over 100 that the people said it was the best hunting video they'd ever seen. And last night I actually got a call. I'm sitting there and my phone says someplace in Ohio, and I figure it's a consulting client or something. And I answer, and it's a 63-year-old gentleman from Ohio. He just watched the video, and he said, "I had to call you. That is the best video I've ever seen in my life." He said, "I'm 63 years old, and that's what a hunting video should be. Hands down, the best one I've ever seen." And for a guy to pick up the phone and research me to find my phone number and call and say that, I mean, that just speaks volumes about the quality of that video. You know, I think God brings certain people together, and I think he brought Steve into my life to match our talents, which are very different. I couldn't begin to do the things that he does, but I think we got a bright future ahead of us working together.
Well, thanks for saying that, Don. I got to be honest with you. This project was kind of special to me because we've gotten to know each other over the last couple of years. And I think the reason why it's so special is because I see the comments and I see the things on social media that people say, and they truly, sometimes they say things and they don't understand the situation. I feel like this was such a good glimpse into who you are as a person, but also as a hunter, also as a Christian. I mean, just, it gives people just kind of that opportunity to see you kind of in a human aspect. You know, not only do you kill these giant deer, but, you know, your first thing you want to do is get your grandkids there. That's not made up. I mean, that's genuine. And I think you can produce really good videos if you have really good content, really good subjects. And I think the combination of the person that you are, Don, and you know, the deer was obviously very, very special, but the work and the you know, your faith and everything else just came together so easy on the edit. It was pretty special, really. It was one of my most favorite things that I've done. So I actually should be thanking you for letting me have this opportunity, man, because it was pretty special. And I shared it with my family before anyone else saw it, and there was the moment where even my wife said, you know, that's pretty emotional. Like there's parts in there that kind of, if you don't feel them, then maybe you're hunting for the wrong reason, you know?
I know the first time I saw it, Steve was at my work, and it wasn't out in public, so Steve handed me his phone, and I walked into a conference room and went in there for 20-some minutes and came back out, and Steve's doing a photo shoot with all of his nerd equipment, you know, all around, and all these lights. Looks like a tanning bed above his head, and I just he had his hands full, so I just, in a manly way, of course, slid his phone back in his back pocket. And I think my statement to you is like, wow, that's emotional. And it was a couple hours before we got to talk about it. I think that you know, I think it's truly I give a lot of tribute to God, because so many things just kind of fell into place outside of the part of the deer. One of the things that people don't know is the cutaways of myself and Al Foster were actually filmed beginning of October. Is that right? Like November 2nd.
That's right.
And only one person sent me a message about it, and they said, the beans are green and there's green leaves on the trees in your footage. And I was like, yeah. And they're like, well, how did you know the script? Because some of the things that I said in my interview basically fell right in line perfect with how, you know, the storyboard that Steve put together of the story. I thought it was really cool.
Well, I think I mentioned that to you, Terry. Like, you and I kind of talked because, you know, you hadn't seen it until we saw each other. And I was pretty adamant about, Terry, like, I couldn't have written a script for you to read any better than what you said in the clip that made the video. And, you remember that video. It was long. It was several pieces long, but that clip in there, it couldn't have been more perfect. So if it's not a God thing, I really don't know what it is, because, you know, when you're editing, you know, you've got all these clips and you got to cut all this stuff together, and, you know, you're watching so many minutes and hours of footage, and there was just that one section of your interview. I was like, this has to go in. Like, it was so perfect, man. It has to be a God thing. That's the only thing I can explain it by.
So this video, it was released on Thanksgiving morning. I won't lie, I was up at 3:00 because, and by the time, I think did you set it for that it would come out at 3 a.m.? Is that what time it was?
Yeah, 3 a.m.
I think it was
Eastern,
about 3:20, 3:40 or something before I finally got woke up enough to actually watch it. And I think I was already at number 875, and I'm like, holy cow, 875 people's already watched this. And then through Thanksgiving Day, it was no time, and it was 10,000, and then it was 20,000. And I'm texting Steve. I think Steve was hunting that morning, and I'm texting Don, and I'm like, "Holy cow! There's a bunch of people watching this." And as it sets today, we're pushing 120,000 views. I think one of the things that is kind of fascinating about it is the nature of YouTube with subscriptions and likes and dislikes. You're always going to bring out the trolls. And Don said from the beginning he wasn't going to get in the muck and kind of, argue with people on there. And I gladly took the opportunity to jump in and do it. And then our friend Todd Hewing he actually created a Google account just so he could comment to a couple of these. But Don, overwhelming positive response back to you, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I didn't. The people that made negative comments, they didn't even use their real name. They were just using handles. They're just not even worth even talking about, really. But the people that contacted me, they used their names, and they had nothing but great things to say. And it's actually one of the highlights of my hunting career, seeing that video.
I think no matter what, you could post a video about a lab puppy running through sunflowers on a sunny day, and there'd be a certain amount of people that would comment negative on it. I know there's a YouTube channel out there called Outdoors with the Morgans that I watch a lot, and their son married a young woman from Thailand, and they did a short clip announcing that they were pregnant, and it got like 130 negative thumbs down. And I'm like, how is that even possible? So it's fine. I don't mind getting in there and setting people straight. The one thing that I do like about it is that how many people got maybe a spiritual or an insight about a relationship with God and family out of this that wasn't even related to the hunting side. And if that just made one spark to put in perspective somebody's personal life with the Lord or their family, I think that was really cool.
Absolutely. And again, Steve just did a fantastic job with what he had to work with. So,
well, I thank you, Don. I got to talk a little bit about the production when we were filming the piece there where most of the documentary style is, where you were talking. It was pretty funny because I told Don, I said, let me do a couple things with the camera, just on some cutaway shots after he, of course, nailed his monologue, it's pretty incredible how he does that. But I know there was one specific instance where I had the camera pretty close to his face, and it was really funny because, this tells you the genuineness of Don. He's sitting there while I'm, inches from space with his camera lens, and he's saying, "I feel awkward. I don't know what to say right now. I don't know what to do right now." And I said, "Don, just trust me, man. I'm telling you, I think this might work out." And he was kind of like, "Well, okay, I trust you, but
do I have a
really
booger?"
awkward."
You got a telephoto lens an inch from his face.
That's right. It was so awesome. He's like, "You want me to talk? You want me to say anything?" I'm like, "No, let me get some cutaway stuff." But you saw kind of how it came together. And then, those voiceover pieces that Don did, productions typically, with my experience, don't come together this smoothly. They just really, really don't. Again, I feel like I'm kind of blowing smoke a little bit, but the truth of the matter is they just normally don't come together this easy. But having the content that we had and the way that we shot it was very few takes. It was just, from a nerd side of things, to coin a phrase, Terry, from a nerd side of things, things normally just don't go this smooth. They just really don't. Between Terry, your interview, Al Foster's interview, and, the job that Don did, the very few takes, it just, I don't know, it kind of wrote itself. And I guess I didn't realize how it was going to touch people that way, because as an editor and a producer, you always worry that the message isn't going to be received the way you want it to be received. I'm not talking about the naysayers, right? I'm not talking about the people who dislike everything. But I'm talking about, is the message about the person that you're trying to tell really coming out? And when you see feedback where people say that they love the fact that Don puts his faith out front, right, in a genuine way, then you can at least say, well, at least the message was received by most people the right way. And that, for as an editor and a producer, I mean, that's probably the biggest compliment you could get, from anything, really.
Well, I do want to tell you, Steve, that there's two things that I thought were above and beyond. I think I mentioned in the video, I think part of that cut is that I was running the camera the year that he passed Mel in the first clip. But what people don't know, because you did such a good job, I think the proper term is color grading the video.
Yeah.
If you saw the cut before he color graded it, you could see the difference in the two cameras. Don had a camera, I had a camera. The shot to end the video, I never saw. That was off Don's camera. I was blocked out by the pine tree because I was on the right-hand side of the blind. So he got out of my frame. But that shot of Mel walking away and going down the hill to end the video, that's powerful stuff, man. That was really cool. And the whole fact is, that's kind of what the closing bookend that went back to Don's whole narrative that, now the chase is over for this one, find another one. But that I'd never seen that footage. That was pretty awesome. But most of all, I think I agree with you the most on I appreciate you letting people see a little bit more true glimpse of Don than one sentence response on social media or an interview or something where things can be taken out of context. And
that's right.
I appreciate you doing that so that a close friend and mentor of mine is represented in a way that's really the most accurate way. And even a couple of I responded to a guy on YouTube. He left a comment. He said, I didn't follow you for a long time because of this perception, and it's a pretty lengthy comment. And he goes, my mind has changed. And I said, I even responded, said, you don't understand how much this means because people got to see it. So thank you for bringing that side of it to the table.
For sure, man. I feel like, Terry, you and I are pretty lucky to we get to see kind of Don in his natural element, right? Like we're the ones that get to see, me following him around with the camera, with your business dealings with him and the co-host and, as much time as you spend with him, we get to see the work that he puts in. We get to see the genuineness of who Don really is. That doesn't normally translate on a Facebook post, or an Instagram post. It was just a good opportunity to give people a little glimpse into Don's one of the most humble guys on the planet. That. Like, he never takes credit for hardly anything, right? Like I feel like people should really know the real Don. And hopefully we gave him a little bit of a piece of that. Like, I guess the next show, if we ever get any more shows, people are going to be lined up to get his autograph now.
Well, I can tell you one thing. He's really uncomfortable with me and you talking about this right now.
I'm sure he is. That's why he's so quiet. I guarantee it. But that's okay. That's what makes it genuine.
Well, we have a little announcement.
$100 bills, I promise. He's on the
way. we have an announcement that we're going to make while Steve is on the line of something that's coming up. But before we do that, Don, we're going to move off of the Mel video. Do you have anything just to kind of close out to let the Steve or the people who watch the video know before we move on and make the announcement?
Well, I just hope everybody realizes that, when it comes to chasing giant whitetails, there's probably nobody crazier about it than I am, to use your word, Terry. But the greatest thing deer hunting ever did to me was the people it brought into my life. There's no person or no buck more important than the people. And you guys are two of those important people. And, we wouldn't even be friends if it wasn't for the white-tailed deer and deer hunting. And that's the greatest thing that deer ever did for me. And I'm probably the most passionate person you'll ever find when it comes to chasing these giant bucks, but I try to keep my priorities in order. And when I was younger, it was, to be honest, I didn't always do that. And I'm still not perfect. I still make a lot of mistakes. But, being a Christian, we realize that we're not perfect, and that's why we need Christ. So I've gotten better at overlooking other people's shortcomings, and I've tried to work on my own at the same time. And I'm sure there's people that knew me as a teenager in my 20s or whatever that probably seen that video and are probably thinking, I don't know who the world that guy was, but he ain't the Don Higgins I know. So to those people, I think that video did a fantastic job of representing who I am today. Even 10 years ago, that video was probably not a very good representation of who I was. We're all a work in progress, and that video shows where I'm at today, and I'm hoping 10 years from now, I can look back and say, man, that was me. I hope I'm continue to move in a forward direction.
Well, and the lesson there is you surround yourself with the people that encourage and hold you accountable on that. And that's, there's not a time that the three of us don't have a conversation and put each other in check. It's but then we move on and let's go. That's what good Christian friends do for each other when they are in a relationship with each other. You hold each other accountable, and bad situations that has happened in our lives have really enabled us to have the friendship that we've had.
Absolutely.
If there wasn't some real turmoil that happened in our life, we probably wouldn't even be friends now. So I think that's just how you position yourself and surround yourselves with good people. So for those people who have watched the video and seen this production that Steve put together, there's a really cool opportunity. And Don, why don't you take it over and talk about this? But for all of those guys out there that like the production work, pretty cool thing getting ready to happen.
Well, in the past year or so, I got to spend a lot of time with Steve. He spent a lot of nights, stayed at my place, and we was putting film clips together for not only this video but other YouTube videos and a lot of clips that haven't even been seen yet. I got to know Steve really well and really got to appreciate his talents. My YouTube channel was 100% put together by Steve. I mean, everything there. I did not push one button to enter anything on that YouTube channel. The videos were all Steve's work. Creating that YouTube channel was all Steve's work. And as I got to know him and know the kind of person he is and really see his talents, I saw an opportunity, and I kind of approached Steve about it. And I said, you know what, have you ever thought about hosting a film school? And he kind of perked up, and, that was something that he was very interested in. And I said, well, what would you think about hosting a film school on my farm? The same place that we hold the master class. You can teach the class, because basically I'm not going to teach anybody anything except how to put the camera on auto and run with it. But, we're going to have a film school, Chasing Giants Film School. It's going to be hosted at my farm. Steve's going to be the guy teaching it. I will be there every step of the way. And, part of it's going to be in a classroom, but a lot of it's going to be in the field. And, I'm going to be doing whatever I'm doing that time of the year for part of that day. And the students are going to be filming me. If it's food plot planning time, I'm going to be out on the tractor planting food plots and working with Steve, as he helps the students, capture the story, as he likes to say. And, this video of Mel was a good representation of Steve's talents. But just so people know, Steve's been working with some of the biggest names in the hunting industry. And he's produced TV shows for some of the biggest names in the industry. There's a lot of people trying to get into the industry, filming their hunts or whatever. And as part of this film school, the opportunity is going to be there for the students to have their hunts aired on the Chasing Giants YouTube channel, which is growing by leaps and bounds. And we're just getting started. It's not even 6 months old. And we got all kinds of plans in the works. But I'm going to let Steve take it away here in a second, but this film school is an opportunity to learn from one of the hunting industry's best photographers, videographers, and producers. So, and it's like I said again, it's going to be on my home farm, and we're going to take care of you while you're there. And with Steve teaching you, I'm sure you're going to learn a lot.
Well, I'm super excited about it. Not only just to be with you guys, kind of doing this thing under the Chasing Giants banner, but also for the fact of, creative, talented people, we kind of relate on a different level. But within the hunting industry, I think it's so important now more than ever that you got to have some subject matter. I think you can put a vlog out there and just talk about what you had for lunch. But I think when it comes to the outdoor channel or the outdoor, genre, so to speak, you really need to tell a story. You got to grab your viewers and do that. That's something I've been passionate about for a long time. Like you said, Don, I've been doing this for a long time, and I just feel like it's time for me to share with other people what I've learned. And, what we want to go over and what we want to talk about isn't something that I learned in film school myself in college or anything. It was what I've learned being, 12,000 feet in the mountains with failing camera batteries and bad SD cards and trying to figure out how I'm going to get my footage without losing it, sub-zero temperatures and all that stuff. Like, I've been there. I've gotten up at 4 a.m. in the morning, worked until 10 o'clock at night and archived footage till 2 in the morning and done that for 17 days straight. So I've done it, and I've been there, and I'm super, super excited to share what I've learned, not just on a camera side of things, because I do have a tendency sometimes to nerd out about the technology because I think it's so cool.
Amen.
Right, exactly.
But the people the people that are coming to this event are going to want to learn that side. That's what they're there for. So it's just the stupid guys like me that have no idea what you're talking about pick on you because of our own insecurities.
Oh, Don, that Terry look that we get with the glasses, like, you're nerding out, dude. You're nerding out. But so we're going to cover a lot of camera techniques. We're going to cover kind of what the cameras do. But the really cool part is that we get to do it in the classroom, and then we get to go out and we get to apply it. And the biggest thing is that we might be lying on our bellies in dirt and trying to get the sun just right and all of that stuff. But you'll see how all of those shots progressively go together and how you can actually capture, how you'll start to see things different. My family, back when we were able to go to movies, would always get mad at me because I'd always be talking about the shot in the movie instead of the actual content of the movie. Like, oh, that was a great shot, that they used this and they did this. But you'll start to see things different. And I think that's the goal with Don and I, is to kind of help people. Like, these are the steps you need to follow to be a good storyteller. And we've got some really great, exciting stuff happening. We've got some surprises that'll probably happen during the class as well. So it's going to be fun. We're going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to learn some stuff while we do it. I just want to say thanks to Don for, even bringing this up and having me be involved. I feel like I'm the blessed one here for sure.
Now, you're the talented one. We're all blessed, but you're the talent. And,
right.
Well, the only value that I will bring to this whole film school thing, if I am there, is I promise to our listeners I will go Facebook Live with all of the students with the camera 2 inches from Don's face, reenacting the video footage of Mel, and I'll make sure I share that with everyone.
Please.
I'm done being a model.
You're a natural, Don. You're a natural.
Well, Steve, again, thank you so much for the awesome work you did sharing this story. I think it deserved the amount of effort and quality that was put into it. And thank you for joining us to talk a little bit about the video and the film school coming up. We appreciate you.
Yeah, of course, man. Thanks for having me on, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. See you, buddy.
All right, so Don, we're gonna switch gears here. Let's talk a little bit about the rut report ending as the rut winds down. Tell us what's going on out in the woods right now.
Okay, well, I'm going to throw out there real quick, Terry. Info on the film school can be found on HigginsOutdoors.com, my website. It is not there yet, but it will be within the next couple of days. There'll be info on the dates. There'll be a video from some of the biggest names in the industry talking about Steve. So go to HigginsOutdoors.com, look for the film school. The rut is just about over, Terry. It's winding down. I know tomorrow the temperature here in Illinois is supposed to be 20 degrees cooler than it was today. They were calling for snow for a while, but I think they've taken that out of the forecast. But the deer are going to quickly get on a winter feeding pattern. I always considered to cut off December 1st, but that was just a general cutoff between the rut and the winter feeding pattern. It could go a couple of days either side of that, and I think we're there. So if you catch a buck cruising or with a hot doe, that's going to be pretty rare from here on out. And with each passing day become even more rare. So I consider the first 2 weeks of December to be the worst time of the year of the whole season as far as hunting success. As those bucks come out of the rut, a lot of times they lay up and they don't get out of their beds till about dark, and they'll go feed at night, and they'll be right back. There's just not a whole lot of daylight movement. So for a couple of weeks here, hunting's going to be about as bad as it can be for the entire season. But then as we get closer to Christmas, then you're going to want to start watching them cold weather fronts that are coming through that'll get those deer moving maybe a little bit earlier in the afternoon towards those food sources.
Yeah. I know we went last night, and the last 2 evenings have been really, really slow and only movement right at dark. I'm hoping that this weather, we're actually supposed to get snow now. So I'm hoping that not only the weather gets the deer up and moving a little bit. We want that cold weather to spark the palatability in some of our winter plots with our brassicas. So the guys that are, wondering why their deer aren't hitting their sugar beets or purple top turnips, and they're still on the lagoons like the clover and the alfalfa. Part of that reason is that you haven't had cold enough temps to drop those nitrates in the plant, so they're not as palatable. So hopefully that cycle will happen. We've been awful warm the month of November.
Mm-hmm.
So. Outside of that, the rut report's going to be ending. The messages that both you and I are getting, I can't imagine what it's like for you, but for my side, it's really hard to keep up with them.
Well, I spent my entire days Friday and Saturday after Thanksgiving. I did hunt with my son-in-law Friday afternoon for 2 or 3 hours, but other than that, from the time I got up to the time I went to bed, both Friday and Saturday, I was trying to keep up on messages, text messages, phone messages, emails, social media messages. And, you would answer one and that person would fire back and want to have a conversation. I'm doing my best to answer everything I get. There may be one or two fall through the cracks that for whatever reason I missed, but I'm trying to answer everyone. And if you get an answer or you send something to me and the answer seems very brief, it's because I'm literally talking to over 100 different deer hunters every single day by one means or another. And I don't want to leave anybody out. I absolutely appreciate everyone's support more than I can even say. And I'm trying my best. And Terry, if it wasn't for you helping, because you're probably talking to the same number, especially being that you're handling the real world emails too. If it wasn't for you helping, I don't know where I'd be.
Yeah, I think that people think that I'm your public relations agent a little bit.
You mean you're not?
I don't know. But I don't do a very good job at it if that's what my responsibility is. But
you do a great job.
People just please understand. And I'm just going to touch on this. We talked about this the last episode, especially with so many new people that are being exposed to Don and Higgins Outdoors and Real World. The sending pictures of your farm and asking us what you should plant. we can't do land consulting for everybody that does that, and it's not because we don't want to help. It's just the value that Don and I put in the advice we give, outside of here's the advantages to planting soybeans, here's the advantages of doing fall plots, here's the advantages of doing diversity. When it comes to actually hunting your property, there's just no way we can give you the advice that we think that goes alongside of the values we have and what we say by aerial maps. So please forgive us if we're not being real responsive when people send us, because I think I got 6 or 7 aerials today. Mm-hmm. So it's just too tough, and we don't want to be the guys that throw out advice when we don't know that it'll work or not.
When we give advice, we fully believe it to be accurate. And with an aerial photo, it's kind of a crapshoot. You're throwing darts, and maybe the advice is going to work, maybe it's not, and we just don't like to operate that way.
Yeah. So, I mean, part of it is your consulting schedule normally gets filled up in late December and January. You're pushing getting filled up now, which is a good thing. But if somebody wants to get you on the schedule, they need to contact you immediately. But you are also starting something else to help with the amount of people that's asking for you to come into your property. So why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, the demand for my consulting service has just grown each year. And, I know people look at the price and they think that's ridiculous. And what I've done over the years is I've slowly tried to raise that price to cut down the demand, so that the demand basically equaled the amount of time I had to devote to it. And I've raised my prices to the point where it's going to cut a lot of people out, and I don't like that at all. I don't like that hunting has become a rich man's sport, and that if you can't afford several $1,000s to have a consultant come out, that you really don't have a good option. So I've been working with my partner at Real World, Wes Delks, for several years. I knew him way before he was a part owner in Real World. He's worked with me on my own farm. He's went with me on consulting visits. We have a lease together. And I feel very comfortable sending folks to Wes. Now, a lot of people are going to balk at that and say, well, why would I hire this young guy? And my response to it, first of all, he's only going to charge you half what it would cost to have me there. So you're going to save a bunch of money. But the other thing is, his plan is going to follow the same principles that mine will. So it's going to end up being very close to the same plan. It might not be exact, but it's not going to be a whole lot different, but it's going to save you a bunch of money. And there's a lot of consultants out there, and there's some good ones for sure, but there's also some that are in it just for the money. And I've seen their plans. In fact, I was just sent a plan today that somebody had another person do, and they wanted me to review their plan and look at it. And they wanted to know my thoughts, and my thoughts were very simple. What's that, Terry?
You broke up again, so just repeat that. Your thoughts are very simple. What? My thoughts on their plan were very simple. If I would have done the plan, it would have looked a whole lot different than the plan they got from whoever it was. I don't even know the name of the person that did their plan. But Wes is a guy that I feel confident in working with. I've just put his information on my website on the consulting page. It'll be down at the bottom of that consulting page. You'll have Wes's rates for different size properties, and it also has his contact info, a little bit of text about Wes, and there's a video that's not there yet, but should be in the next 24 hours or so. So, I'm getting pretty full on my end, but Wes still has some openings, so you still have options. And for those wondering, I am not available for land consulting. I don't have any desire to do land consulting. I'm too busy. So the people have to understand that time of the year I'm coaching high school fast pitch softball. So that working with kids fills all of my spare time. So I don't think, shifting a little bit of gears here, I don't think that people have a misunderstanding about your view on mechanical broadheads at this point.
No. And I think a couple episodes ago, I made my view on mechanical broadheads very clear, but I wanted to talk about it again just a little bit tonight because I've got a lot of feedback on that and people saying that they're actually going to switch from mechanical broadheads, people telling me the horror stories of losing deer that they shot with mechanical broadheads. And I'm not going to get into a rant like I did before. I'm going to try not to. But, folks, whenever I offer advice, I do it because I want to look out for your best interest. I want to help you sincerely. And mechanical broadheads are basically, they should be outlawed. If you're using mechanical broadheads, it's not if you will lose a deer. It's just a matter of when. How long is it going to be? The last thing you want to happen is have the buck of your dreams come by, a buck you've waited your entire life for, and you shoot him with a mechanical broadhead, hit him in the shoulder or whatever, get zero penetration, and you lose that deer. Or maybe you make a bad hit, and you just can't find him. I'm going to tell you, with my setup, and I've got a lot of questions about my setup, I use heavy arrows, and I use a good, solid, traditional broadhead. I'm actually using the Slick Trick Magnums, the stainless steel ones that are really hardened steel, and I will shoot right through a shoulder of a deer. And if I hit the shoulder on the side of the shot, I guarantee I'm going right through it into that buck's chest cavity. That deer's dead. You do that with an expandable, that deer is injured. You are probably not ever going to find him. If he does die, there's a good chance he won't. There's a good chance he will. And if he does, your odds of finding him are very low. I know Terry and I have made fun of tree saddles, and this is a totally different situation here. I really don't care who uses a tree saddle. It all started as a joke when Wes bought one, and Terry and I told him he wouldn't use it for a season, and that's exactly what happened. I'm not joking about mechanical broadheads. Those things are junk. They need to be thrown in a trash can, and they need to be outlawed. They wound more deer than traditional broadheads. Get rid of them, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, the thing that people have to understand is that this is out of concern and out of...
Are you silent, Terry?
I'm here. Are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
I said that what I was saying is that this is not a sponsored plug. Don is not affiliated with any arrow or broadhead manufacturer. There is no hidden agenda here. It is just something that is a concern of his experience and what he sees works and what doesn't work, and minimizing the risks or the things that could go wrong when you put all of this time and effort together to go after an animal, to minimize things that can go wrong. So that's the only angle that's coming from. So I hope people appreciate that. So we're going to talk about the giveaway a little bit later, but can we break off to the buyAfarm.com property of the week for a minute?
Yeah, I think it's a good time for it.
BuyAfarm.com is your source for farm, recreational properties, rural homes, and more. Now, here is Don Higgins with this week's featured property.
Okay, today's featured property is a 74-acre tract in Hamilton County, Illinois. This tract of ground has a beautiful brick home on it, over 2,500 square foot home, 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. There's a pole barn that measures 40 by 90 feet with a concrete floor. There's a 5-acre lake on the property, and if you're into fishing, they've got bass, bluegill, and catfish in this stocked lake. You need to go on the buyAfarm.com website and look at this listing and take a look at some of the bass that they pulled out of this 5-acre lake. There's also another small pond on the property. Some of the acreage is enrolled in a CRP tree program. I think it's producing over $5,000 in annual income from that. Abundant deer and turkey on the property. The home has an outside wood burner for auxiliary heat. It's in the Hamilton County School District. And one thing that's kind of unique about this tract is it can be split up. If you're just interested in the land without the home, the landowner is willing to split it up and sell you just the land, which would gain you the 5-acre lake, as well as the property to hunt. It's located, the address is McLeansboro, Illinois. So if you're interested in this property, just go to the buyafarm.com website, look for the 74-acre Hamilton County listing, or call Jamie Keller. Jamie Keller's number is 618-713-7677, and she would be happy to show you the home and the property.
So one of the things we have to remember in today's current status of the country is that these recreational properties are going extremely fast. So the team at Buy a Farm, even if the properties that we don't mention on the air are not what you're looking for, reach out to these people. They can help plug you into the right property to meet what you want and what you're looking for. But don't want to dilly-dally around too much, because I was talking to somebody the other day, and these properties are being sold almost as fast as they're being listed. So please make sure you go over and visit buyafarm.com, follow them on Facebook, and tell them that the folks at Chasing Giants sent you. So thank you for your support. So submitted questions. I don't know that we're going to have time for 3 of them tonight, but why don't we jump right in and get to the first one?
All right, we do have 2. One thing I want to throw out to the listeners is, we give a free Chasing Giants T-shirt if we use your question. I'm currently out of some of the different sizes of T-shirts that they're on order. So if we've used your question in the last, say, 3 or 4 podcasts, and you did not get a T-shirt yet, you will. It's just that I'm waiting on that order to come in.
Okay.
So the first question this evening comes from Cole Reagan. He is from Williamston, Michigan. Cole says, Don, congrats on Mel. Excellent video. Thank you for the content. Question for you and Terry. I have heard you dismiss the idea of doe factories. However, over your vast years of hunting and consulting, have you seen properties with extremely high deer densities of does, pushing mature bucks to leave and live on neighboring properties with lower competition for quality bedding and food? I hunt a property which I call the nursery, which due to the landowner does not, does are not allowed to be harvested on this 200 acres. It is not uncommon to see 50 to 75 does a hunt with many little bucks 3 years and younger during a hunt. I will get trail camera pictures of bucks over 4 years old throughout the season, but sightings are minimal. We liberally harvest does in surrounding sections. However, over years and years, the deer herd know the safe zone. I appreciate your guys' input and thoughts. Well, Cole, I'm going to go right to your last sentence. It says, the deer herd know the safe zone. Do you think the does are the only ones that know the safe zone and the mature bucks don't? I guarantee you the mature bucks are in the safe zone too. And I don't know, where that safe zone is in your area, but if the does are there because it's the safest place to be, I can assure you the mature bucks are too. Now, I don't know what a mature buck is in your area. You live in Michigan, the most mature buck in your area may be a 2-year-old. Maybe not. I'm just going on the information I have here. The whole idea of a doe factory is a fallacy in which I explained in one of my YouTube videos. Throughout much of the year, especially in the late spring, summer months, a lot of times the buck herd is separate from the doe portion of the whitetail herd. And the reason for that is it's Mother Nature's way of ensuring survival of the species. So the doe herd gets the prime location to raise their fawns, and the bucks move into other areas and get in bachelor groups, as they're growing their antlers. But, as fall comes on, the bachelor groups break up, hunting season opens, the rut takes place, the herd comes together for more than one reason. It comes together for breeding. It also comes together to concentrate around those fall food sources. The whole idea of a doe factory, what we got to realize here is that there are people in this industry who are trying to make money. I want to be careful how I say this. They're trying to make money without regards to how they might mislead you a little bit. There's people out there putting out one video after another because they're monetizing these videos on YouTube and they're getting paid. They got to have a catchphrase. That title on that YouTube video has got to catch the person's attention so they click on it. And then when they click on it, that person makes money because they monetized it. At this point, we have not monetized any videos, even this male video, which we knew was going to be a hit. There may come a day when we do. We don't know yet. There's a very good chance there will come that day. But the content that we put out is to help people. It's not to make money, although I do make money through my consulting and such. But the info I share is absolutely 100% factual. Or if it's an opinion, I believe it to be true 100%. I'm not looking for catchphrases like doe factory to get somebody to click on a video. That doe factory thing is so misleading, and it's caught on. There's a lot of people that believe in it just because they heard somebody say it. It's like a magazine article. If someone reads something in a magazine, they think it's absolutely true. That having it published in a magazine gives it instant credibility. Well, a lot of times the author is a great writer, but his deer hunting experience is limited. And you just need to keep that in mind. When you're taking advice from anyone, look at that person's hunting success. And, there's a big difference between shooting a deer with a high-powered rifle and shooting one under 20 yards with a bow. So take a look at that person really close. And if they appear to be successful, how are they doing it? Does it fall in line with what they're trying to promote to others? The doe factory is just one that makes me want to beat my head against the wall, because there's no doe factory. It's just a term that somebody has coined that is nonsense. And I want to leave it at that. Terry, you want to jump in?
I go back to his question a little bit, because I think there's two key points that he phrases in there, and that is that I think he said they got trail camera pictures of mature bucks, but when they're hunting, they don't see many sightings. Did I imagine that, or is that the gist of what he said? I will get trail camera pictures of bucks over 4 years old throughout the season, but sightings are minimal. I'm going to guess that what he's trying to say there is, you have your mature bucks there. You just answered kind of your question, is the bucks, if you're getting pictures, you're there. So I would start back at, am I hunting in the right places at the right times? Most likely, I do think that in an area that has a lot more does than bucks, you will probably not see as many during the rut, because there isn't the competition. Those bucks we talked about it through lockdown. As the bucks come out of lockdown, if there's more does, they don't have to travel as far to get to the next doe that might be in heat. Is that a correct statement?
Absolutely.
So if you're a rut hunter and all of your time and effort and your hunting strategy is around the rut, your buck to doe ratio being that far out of whack probably will hurt you. I look at it the other way. I would rather have more does, and I don't have 50 to 75, but I probably have 30 out in the field every night in early and late season. But I would rather have those does to protect my younger bucks so they're not running across to the neighbor's property. I do not believe that if you have that many does that a buck can't find a place to bed. A buck will find a place to bed in a fence row with a rose bush.
Yep.
Deer are the most adaptable animal on the planet, and to say that they won't bed in a thicket or a thing of switchgrass because there's more than so many does, I don't buy that.
Well, I got off on my doe factory tangent there a little bit, and I want to talk about my own property just a little bit.
I think it's a great example.
It is. It's perfect. The idea is, with the whole doe factory thing, is you don't want to plant these summer food sources because the does will pile in there, and then you won't have bucks on your property. Well, that's the biggest bunch of garbage that's being promoted. I plant a lot of plots in the spring that are prime in the summer, soybeans, clovers, things like that.
Right.
And in the summertime, I almost never get a picture of a buck on my place. You don't hardly ever see them. They summer elsewhere, but I'm telling you, during the fall, I've got the bucks in spades. They come from every direction. They pile onto my place. So the whole doe factory thing, it just irritates me to no end because it's bad information that's being promoted, and I know firsthand from my own property that's what's being promoted is just total garbage.
Just like mechanical broadheads. Well, Cole, thank you for your question. Like we said, different areas. I know you said you're in Michigan. Different areas have different things going on. So obviously, if you have a follow-up question or whatever, just reach out to us. But thank you for your question. You'll get a free T-shirt in the mail when the sizes come in. If we don't have that size now. Okay.
Yes,
let's go to the next question.
Next question comes from John Ziegler, and he's from Shoals, Indiana. John says, "Hello, Don and Terry. Congratulations on your successes of this season. I really enjoy listening to the podcast, including your rants, i.e. the love swings, reading the rut reports, and taking in anything that you guys put out. Terry, you have mentioned a few times that you send teeth to be professionally analyzed for age, but Don seems to be quiet on that topic. I asked him in a private message if he would send Mel's teeth in, and he responded with a short negative response, even though my question could have had a more wordy response." I want to, right there, John, I appreciate your question and your support, but that's just an example of I get on my email, for example, and I've got 50 emails to answer, and I'm trying to get everybody an answer, and sometimes I am brief, very brief, and I apologize for that, but I promise you're not the only one that's got a brief response.
Including me. John, welcome to my world sometimes. We get so busy, it's not personal. We're not trying to be rude. It's just we're trying to get to everybody. So,
and we absolutely appreciate your support. So moving on, John says, "I figured that Wildlife Analytical Lab could give a firm age of Mel and somewhat stop the naysayers. The same for the Joey buck. Does Don not believe in the aging science, or WAL, whatever that is?"
That's the name of the company, Wildlife Analytical Lab.
Okay. "Or is he just confident enough in his own assessment of age, and that's sufficient for him? I have personal questions about the science, so that is probably why I'm interested in Don's opinion on this. I sent 5 sets of teeth to them a few years ago, and I really had a problem with 2 of their conclusions. I've sent others over the years too, but that one year raised the most doubts. In summary, what do you both think about aging deer via wall technology? Why is it, or why isn't it, of value? Thanks, John. P.S. I'm not sure if I understand Don's opinion of mechanical blade broadheads."
Being a little sarcastic with that last one.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that last line, John. Thank you. At least he gets it. I'm going to give a short answer, then I'm going to turn it over to Terry because he has a whole lot more experience in this than I do. But with Mel, I wish I would have sent his teeth in. I took his head to the taxidermist, and I forgot all about telling the taxidermist to save that jaw. And when I remembered it a couple days later, it was too late.
It was the plan. It was the plan, but looking back on it, there was so much going on with getting your nephews and Steve there, and you still being a little bit drained, recovering from COVID. It was the plan to always get him aged to prove this, but
right.
it was just it slipped everybody's mind, and I take responsibility because I should have reminded you about it, but we had talked about it, and I just assumed you'd kept him.
But with that said, I am 99% confident Mel was a 4.5-year-old buck. Now, Joey is a totally different story because I didn't even learn about that buck until he was mature. When my friend Joe Johnson found the sheds from that buck, the first set he found would have been back in the spring of 2018. And I was just guessing at that time that based on the mass, the size of the pedicle and such, that I was guessing that was probably at least a 4-year-old at that time. So I just considered him a 4 and left it at that, which would make him 7.5 this year. I did save the jawbone off Joey, and I am sending it in.
The kid is on, yeah, the kid is on order for that one. You should be getting it in the mail here in the next couple of days.
So with that said, that's the story of my 2 bucks, and Terry has a lot more experience on this stuff. So I have never sent a jawbone or the teeth in of a deer ever to be aged. Terry has sent several in, so I'm going to let him take over from here.
Well, John, I apologize in advance because this is going to be a roundabout answer to your question, but I want to touch on Mel for just a second. And there's a couple people that it's also questioned to verify it. If we were trying to be deceitful in the story of Mel, we wouldn't have even said he was a 3-year-old when he was passed. It makes a better story if Don would have passed him as a 4-year-old to shoot him at 5. When you're really looking at it. So there's nothing that is playing out. And for the people to take away the need to argue if he was really a 3-year-old or he was older than that based on, I think, a total of 3 trail camera pictures and a very small amount of footage that we put in that video. You have to understand Don watched them and studied hundreds of pictures of those deer, and that is the conclusion he had. And if you want to argue it, it just baffles me that that's what people are getting out of that video is the takeaway. But besides that, I don't really have an argument against Wildlife Analytical Lab as far as good, bad, and different. I can just tell you the facts. The first time I sent a tooth in was what year did I shoot the old guy, Don? Same year you shot Smokey. Was that 17?
17.
So Don had pictures of this deer and thought he was 9 years old. And so I got the name of this company. It was deerage.com, and it was actually owned by some people in Texas, I believe, off the top of my head at that time. Well, in the meantime, after as I was transitioning, or they were transitioning and I was sending Mel in, a lady purchased it, I believe, in Wisconsin or Minnesota. So I don't know, John, when you've sent teeth in that you had good experience, bad experience, or questioned the results. I would talk to them about that. I'm not going to argue their stance for or against it with what the results are. The owner of the company's name is Heather. She's a very nice lady, very responsive. I'm not sponsored by them. I just bought 2 kits from them, full pop. So it's not a promotion on my part. The thing that I like about it is I I see the science in being able to count the rings of the inside of the tooth versus being subjective in trying to measure wear based on diet. You know, you can't tell me that if a deer eats soybean leaves all of his life versus a mountain deer who eats acorns and twigs and rocks to fill its belly, that the teeth are going to wear the same. And I think that teeth wear analysis can get you in the ballpark, but I've also taken the jaw from my 10-year-old and showed it to people who claim that they're an expert in wear, and they've said he's a 4-year-old. So this is the closest thing to science that I know of to check it. So if you've had a result that you don't agree with, I would take that up with them. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't know of a better way to kind of close the chapter and learn as much as you can about the animal that you harvested by sending it there. But as for my dealings with them, I think they're very responsive, great customer service. She's really grown the business. I think last time I talked to her, she said that in the last year they've grown about 800%. So they've invested in new equipment, hired people, and are still trying to meet the demand of everybody wanting to learn more about their animal. So I don't doubt the science. I think it's pretty clear. The beauty of it is you only have to send in those 2 front teeth on the bottom of the jaw. So you can do that even before. I need to show Don how to do this next time I'm up there, but you can do this before you take your deer to the taxidermist, with just like a Havalon or a scalpel knife and a pair of needle nose pliers. So it's extremely easy to do. Doesn't affect your mount, and I think their entry level kit is like $39. So we should. I have my packet for the Illinois shotgun deer that I killed. It's leaving tomorrow, so it'll arrive there mid to end of the week. I should have my results back by mid next week on my buck, and then the Joey buck. Don should get those that kid in, so he'll be probably a week behind me. So we'll have those results to share with you. But that's all I can really say.
Well, like I said, I've never sent a set of teeth in, so
I will say this. A friend of mine who listens to the podcast, he's going to get a little embarrassed, but he shot one of the biggest bucks of his life on a brand new property. He listens to the podcast, and he was kind enough to send Don and I a gift. He shot a buck on Thanksgiving Day, and Don actually got on a FaceTime with him to say congratulations, because I went over to look at the buck. The next morning, I went over to take pictures for him, and great buck. He was proud of it. The neighbor came by, and I'm going to ask you and put you on the spot on this, Don. He said that a yearling buck will grow only 2 front teeth, and then every year after that, he grows another tooth. So he counted the number of teeth from center, and there was 3 on the front, and said, "Oh, that's a 3-year-old." You ever heard anything like that?
No, I'm sure that's not accurate.
I told him, I said,
lives to 10 and he's got teeth all the way around his
I guess.
back of his throat.
I told him, I said, I have a 10-year-old jawbone sitting in my room right now that, according to you, he's a 3-year-old. So I don't know that he liked me telling him that his theory wasn't accurate, but there's probably a lot of ways that you can go about trying to figure out the age of a deer. Don, one of his best videos, and I don't think it's got many views, is aging bucks by trail camera pictures. That's really, really tough. Once they get mature, you really can't tell. So I encourage you to find a way to send these teeth off. I don't know if WAL is the only company or not. There might be somebody else. I'm not sure, but that's the one I use. So,
well, thanks for your question, John. And we'll be getting you a T-shirt. Like I said, if anyone we used your question, you didn't get a T-shirt yet, we will get you one just as soon as we get them in hand. So we do have some sizes, which will be sent out immediately.
So before we pick the winner of the free master class, let's talk a little bit. You said that you're going to hunt these cold fronts with Corey here the next couple days. I think second shotgun season is coming in Illinois, right?
Yeah,
On
the
Thursday?
second gun season is starts Thursday. I'm anxious for that to be over. That's when I can really start focusing on next year. I know which buck survived. Oh, well, I will know. Within a few weeks of season being over, I'll be checking all my trail cameras and seeing which buck survived and starting to work for next year.
Yeah. And I still have a Kentucky tag and an Illinois archery tag, so I'm going to be waiting for a little bit later in December and waiting for those cold fronts. And I'm going to be setting over some real world soybeans here, hopefully in December as it gets cold. So, All right, do you guys? Let's jump in and why don't we tell people how to enter into this contest again? Make sure they understand it, and then you can disclose who the winner is and what the instructions need to be to get everything scheduled.
Okay, yeah. As everyone probably knows, I have a whitetail master course that I hold on my home farm in the spring. We start on my farm. We go to a second property. We go right to the tree stands where I've shot some of my biggest bucks. And I'll explain why I hung my stand there, how I access the stand, how I play the wind, how the buck is using the wind, what makes that stand good for me, but also good for the buck to come by. To answer questions right there at the stand. We look at about a dozen different stand sites on the two properties. We got some time in the classroom, which is my shed. Lunch is served the night before. We have like a social hour with pizza and pop, and Terry and I usually record a Chasing Giants podcast there live with the crowd and take questions from the crowd instead of submitted questions. So it's become very popular, and it's going to sell out here pretty quick. The 3 classes are limited to 20 students each, so 60 total students. And I've already got a good start on that 60. So this year we're going to give away, there's 3 classes held on Saturdays in March. We're going to give away 1 free admission to each class. The first class will be on March the 13th. And so the person that I drew out right before we did this podcast, you have a free pass to the March 13th class. If I call your name, just get a hold of me through email, through my website, social media, whatever you got to do, and make contact. I'm also going to send you a message through Facebook just to let you know that you won. But the first winner is Ben Hall, and Ben is from Errol, I think I'm saying this city right, Errol, Errol, New Hampshire. Ben, you won a free admission to the March 13th master course, and I'll be in touch with you and look forward to seeing you there.
All right. So make sure that you follow that criteria. We will be picking another winner on the next podcast for the second master class. So hope that this fellow can make it. We do have quite a few people that come down from the New England area. So we can help arrange some recommendations for your travel logistics and anything you need there. So get with Don. And outside of that, I'm still kind of stoked about this Mel video, buddy. I'm so happy that people, for the most part, got to see a glimpse of the amount of work and effort you put into chasing this passion of yours.
Yeah, I'm super pleased with the job Steve did, and we're actually going to be doing a video on the Joey buck I shot as well. I don't have near the footage and such of that buck that I had of Mel, but it's a very unique story, and it really tells how I find a lot of these bucks that I hunt. Not all of them, but how I find some of these bucks that I hunt. So be looking for that coming out in the future.
It's a great example of the same time, same place theory you've written about for years. I know you posted that on your social media the other day. But just a reminder for folks listening, if you're not finding a way to log these trail camera photos to be able to yearly track the habits of these bucks, you're missing a very crucial piece that you might need to close the deal.
Yeah, the really interesting thing, we talked about this a little bit on that special podcast the other day, Terry, but for anybody that might have missed it, I learned about this buck 2 years before killing him. I got permission on 2 very small parcels within that buck's range. Each one of those parcels had a little patch of brush on it. If you would have put all the brush together that was on both tracts of land, it would have maybe equaled about 5 acres of cover. And that was split in half between 2 properties. But I had to wait for the right conditions. And I had permission on this property for 2 years, and I spent 2 years with trail cameras putting things together, and went in and hunted the property. 15 minutes into my first hunt, I shoot this buck. So it don't always happen like that, but this one just fell into place perfectly. And when you see the video, you'll understand, and a lot of things will make more sense than me just trying to describe it here. But definitely a blessing to fill my second buck tag with another booner.
Yeah, I'm excited about that, and we'll continue to update. Even though Don's tagged out, this podcast is still going to work to try to give insight of where we're at in the hunting season, and try to give some insight on how you can close the deal. But we're running a little bit long. We're at an hour and 15. I think it's probably, unless you have something else you want to go over, I think it's probably time to thank our sponsors and close her out.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm ready to wrap it up, Terry.
All right.
All right, we want to thank our sponsors, BuyAFarm.com, 360 Hunting Blinds, Quiet Cat Bikes, Real World Wildlife Products, Vortex Optics, Matthews Archery, and Lone Wolf Tree Stand. Everybody be safe out there. See you next time.